Hook my lines add Kearney High Joe suspense create cry stories say he lines at the low. I knew it was over the second he called the server room quaint. He hadn't even set his vegan lunchbox down yet. Just strutted in like he was auditioning for some pharmaceutical ad, flashing his perfect veneers and arrogance in equal measure. Said something about reimagining operational agility like he was delivering a TED Talk no one asked for. Then he took one long smug look around the room, the wires, patch notes, backup drives, the failover guides I'd taped beside routers, and smirked.
Wow.
This place is a museum, he chuckled.
We didn't call it that.
For us, it was always the heart room. It pulsed with a hum of servers, fans, and blinking lights that had carried us through storms, takeovers, and impossible deadlines. I'd been there 8 years. I'd patched outages with duct tape and borrowed VPNs. I'd trained rookies who now ran departments in Dallas. My handwriting was clean, my process meticulous. But the moment Vincent Gray walked in, I knew we were doomed. He wasn't here to understand. He was here to replace. Replace us, replace our system, replace everything with shiny dashboards and buzzwords. So, I kept my mouth shut. But in that silence, a plan was already forming. He just didn't know it yet. He called himself a director, but all I saw was a man obsessed with titles. Sunset the legacy stack, he announced in his first week. He hadn't even seen the load logs. He sniffed at my hand-drawn topology map and tossed my clipboard into the trash like it was a wet rag. That clipboard wasn't just paper. It held 8 years of scars and solutions. In the margins were notes no vendor would ever understand. Warnings only lived experience could write. The last page had a red Sharpa line that read, when the load index exceeds 9.2, failover will misroute to null. Do not override manual override. He didn't even bother reading it. Just tossed it away. I didn't argue. I just observed. Because when people like him fail, they don't stumble quietly. They crash loud, and they take everyone down with them. I wasn't planning to save him. I was planning to let him prove himself exactly as reckless as I already knew he was. My job wasn't defense anymore, it was record-keeping. His consultants showed up next, thick glasses and thinner patience. They snapped pictures of servers like tourists in a museum, held meetings about what color the new dashboard should be. They asked me where the firewall logs were like interns who missed day one. Meanwhile, I came in early just to stand in the quiet before chaos. The fans humming like Morse code, the blinking drive light steady as a heartbeat. Sometimes I picked up the clipboard from the trash, flipping through its pages like scripture, then laying it back down untouched. It wasn't that I'd given up. It was that I understood. Warnings are useless to men who refuse to listen. And Vincent wasn't listening. He wasn't looking at the system as a living thing. To him, it was just a trophy he could remodel for the board. But systems don't forgive arrogance. They punish it. And this one was almost ready. By week 2, he called a meeting to announce the future. His words dripped like a sales pitch. This operation is a rust bucket. I'm here to modernize. Half the room shifted uncomfortably. The other half, the ones he hadn't forced out yet, just stared at the floor. When he pointed at my notebook and asked if it was documentation, I deadpanned. No. Lunch order. He didn't laugh. Instead, he told me to digitize my knowledge. These scribbles won't cut it anymore, he said. My smile was cold. I'll get right on it. I lied. That night, I photocopied every page of that clipboard and locked the copies in my drawer at home. The original? It stayed in the trash. That was his trophy. My trophy would come later. Greg, the old director, had left me one final note before retiring. Keep it breathing. I wasn't going to betray that. Vincent rolled out his roadmap like a kindergarten art project. He pinned it to the break room board, 12 phases in 4 colors. He named it Operation Streamline. It looked like corporate fan fiction. The first step? Rip out middleware without knowing what it was glued to. The second? Replace manual overrides with auto-resolve logic trees. I raised one concern. What happens when the loop eats itself? He blinked. Said the system would learn not to do it again. That was my first red flag. He ignored it. Deployed a half-baked sync API that treated Oregon and Ohio like the same time zone. Orders duplicated. Inventories ghosted. Cold shipments warmed in limbo. I quietly pinged an engineer with a warning. "We've seen this before." Vincent replied in the Slack thread himself. "Let's not get distracted by noise." Eyes on the vision.
Noise.
10 years of system scars. 10 years of survival. He thought it was noise. I thought it was fuel. And I was right. The real cracks showed in week 3. It started small, an email queue delayed by 4 minutes. 4 minutes in our system wasn't just time, it was oxygen. 4 minutes meant invoices slipped. 4 minutes meant vendors didn't get their shipment release. 4 minutes meant the database flagged reconciliation errors and sent red alerts to 3 departments. I pointed it out. His reply? "Tolerance levels are acceptable within innovation windows." He said it like he'd swallowed a thesaurus. I stared at him across the room and realized this wasn't incompetence anymore. This was negligence, branded with PowerPoint slides. My team knew the stakes. We'd lived through holiday rushes where 10 seconds meant 6 figures lost. We'd fought storms where a single generator saved millions. And here he was, shrugging off oxygen leaks like they were paperwork delays. But you know what? That 4 minutes didn't scare me. It thrilled me. Because 4 minutes was proof. Proof that his shiny system wasn't ready. Proof that the old notes, the ones he threw away, were still more alive than anything he'd built. The room wasn't laughing with him anymore. They were watching, waiting. And so was I. Then came the first outage. I knew it was coming, like a storm you smell before clouds appear. It hit on a Wednesday at 2:13 p.m. A frozen API handshake. A sync loop chasing its tail until the servers locked up like a stubborn mule. Vincent strutted out of his office, hair perfectly in place, suit jacket slung across one shoulder, and said, "We'll ride it out. These systems need to evolve." Ride it out? He treated downtime like a yoga exercise. Phones lit up. Vendors called. Customer service drowned. Meanwhile, my old failover guide sat buried in the trash, unread. I knew exactly what was happening. The auto-resolve logic was stuck, eating itself. The fix was simple. Manual override, pull the switch, reset the loop. It would have taken me 10 minutes. But he'd killed manual override. Called it legacy nonsense. So instead, the system chewed on itself for 4 hours. By the time we clawed back online, orders had evaporated. Millions gone. He called it a learning opportunity. I called it something else. Evidence. After that outage, whispers spread. Not just in my team, but across the company. Finance. Logistics. Even sales. They didn't care about dashboards. They cared about deliverables. And they were watching his shiny project fail in real time. He doubled down. Held all-hands meetings where he blamed growing pains and legacy baggage. Legacy baggage. That was me. That was us. People who had held the system together with spit, tape, and sleep deprivation. People who knew that a line of code written at 3 a.m. could decide whether a truck rolled out or stalled. He sneered at us, but the sneer was cracking. You could see it in his eyes. He was sweating at the edges. I started keeping notes again. Not just technical notes. Behavioral ones. His lies. His timelines. His dismissals. Because revenge isn't just about watching someone fail. It's about proving it. Documenting it. Making sure when they fall, the ground rises up like concrete, not pillows. And I was laying bricks. One night, I stayed late. The office was empty, the hum of servers louder than ever. I opened the hidden copy of my notes and traced the red sharp line. Do not override manual override. My handwriting looked like prophecy now. I stared at it, imagining the crash that was coming. Not just outages. Not just frozen screens. Something bigger. Something catastrophic. And I realized I didn't have to sabotage him. He was sabotaging himself. All I had to do was step aside and let it unfold, like watching a candle burn down, slow, inevitable. I leaned back in my chair, sipping stale coffee, and smiled. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't angry. I wasn't bitter. I was patient. And patience, when weaponized, is sharper than any knife. The breaking point arrived sooner than I thought. Friday morning. Peak cycle. Orders flooding in from 3 time zones, trucks waiting for release, warehouses stacked to the rafters. His system hiccuped, then froze, then died.
Dead silent.
Screens black. Inventory vanished into nothingness. Phones rang like alarms in a nightmare. Vincent stormed out, panic in his perfect smile. He barked orders that made no sense, shouting for scripts that didn't exist. I watched him flail, pacing like a CEO in a fire drill. Everyone stared at me.
The old guard.
The one with answers. But I didn't move. Not a finger. This was his show now. And I was front row, watching Arrogance choke on reality. He had called my notes scribbles. He had called my warnings noise. Now his noise filled the building, panic, chaos, desperation. And I sat back, arms crossed, knowing the story wasn't over yet. Not even close. By Monday morning, the fallout was visible everywhere. Vendors were screaming, finance was on fire, customer service was chewing through headsets like gum. Vincent strutted into the emergency call like nothing had happened, hair gelled, suit sharp, eyes manic. "We've identified growth friction," he declared. Growth friction. That's what he called 4 hours of dead systems and millions down the drain. He didn't even blink when the CFO asked for details. He just nodded and promised a stronger rollout cycle. I muted my mic, covered my mouth, and laughed until my ribs hurt. Because there it was. The blind arrogance that would bury him. Not a glitch. Not a bug. A pattern. And everyone else saw it now. He thought he was playing chess. In reality, he was playing Jenga with missing pieces. And I had front row tickets to the collapse. He tried to fix it the only way he knew. Optics. He announced a new stability task force. Fancy words for panic. Guess who he didn't invite?
Me.
The guy with the only working blueprint. The guy with the answers. Instead, he pulled in interns, analysts, and a consultant who looked like he'd been grown in a lab for LinkedIn profile photos. They huddled in glass conference rooms, brainstorming resilient strategies, while the system bled in real time. Orders dropped. Trucks stalled. Customers bolted. And still, he kept smiling, insisting they were on the verge of a breakthrough. I watched from my desk, silent, invisible. He thought he was sidelining me. In reality, he was isolating himself. Every bad decision, every delayed shipment, every lost dollar, it all pointed back to him now. His kingdom of glass was cracking, and he didn't even hear the sound. The next outage wasn't just bad. It was biblical. Tuesday at 11:47 a.m., the system folded in on itself. Not a hiccup, not a freeze, total collapse. Data scrambled. Orders duplicated, erased, corrupted. The warehouse floor looked like a war zone. Pallets stacked wrong, trucks idle, drivers yelling. You could taste the chaos in the air. Vincent stormed around, red in the face, tie loose, sweat dripping. "We'll stabilize. Trust the process," he shouted. But no one listened anymore. Phones weren't ringing vendors this time. Vendors were showing up in person, storming the lobby demanding answers. And while Vincent flailed, the executives turned. They looked past him. Their eyes landed on me. The quiet one. The one who wasn't shouting. The one who looked like he knew. I didn't move. Not yet. Not while his empire still had one more wall to fall. Revenge isn't just about striking. It's about timing. By Wednesday, Vincent was a ghost of his former self. Hair messy, shirt wrinkled, smile gone. He called another all-hands meeting, but his voice cracked. He begged for patience. Begged for trust. But the room was silent, colder than server racks. Then the COO spoke. "We need stability. We need someone who understands the old system." My heart thudded. My name wasn't said out loud, but it didn't have to be. Everyone turned. Vincent's jaw clenched. His perfect teeth ground together like stones. He knew it too. His rein was slipping, and the more he fought, the deeper he sank. He glared at me, eyes full of venom. I just looked back, calm, collected. Revenge tastes sweeter when your enemy knows it's coming and can't stop it. Thursday was the day it all broke. Another outage, longer this time, wider. Finance froze payroll. Logistics ground to dust. Executives screamed behind closed doors. And Vincent? He disappeared. No dramatic speech. No pep talk. Just vanished from his office, his dashboard, his throne. People whispered he was sick. Some said he was meeting lawyers. I didn't care. I sat at my desk, opened my hidden notes, and smiled. My red Sharpie warnings, my prophecies, had come true. Not by sabotage. Not by hacking. By patience. By letting arrogance eat itself alive. And when the COO finally walked up to me, asking for help, I didn't rush. I didn't gloat. I just nodded slowly and said, I'll need full access. And a team that listens. The room exhaled. Vincent was done. And I was just getting started. Friday morning, the board called an emergency session. No theatrics, no fake smiles. Just grim faces, folded arms, eyes that had already made a decision. Vincent walked in late, tie crooked, hair damp like he'd showered in panic. He tried one last performance, promising a strategic rebound, but the words fell flat. Numbers don't lie. Millions burned.
Customers gone.
Trust shattered. He flipped through slides like a drowning man clinging to driftwood, but no one bit. Then the CFO cut him off. We've lost confidence. Just 4 words, but they echoed like a gavel. Vincent's face drained, his jaw slack. For the first time, silence didn't protect him. It condemned him. He looked around for allies, but the room was stone. His kingdom had voted. His crown was ash. They didn't fire him on the spot. That would have been mercy. No, they stripped him slowly. First, control of the project. Then, authority over the team. By noon, he was a figurehead in name only, a ghost chained to a desk. I was summoned instead. Quietly, respectfully. We need your plan, the COO said. Not his. Mine. I slid my old blueprint across the table, the one Vincent mocked. The one he called quaint. Now it was gospel. Eyes lit up as they read it, nodding, murmuring approval. Vincent sat across from me, pale and shaking, forced to watch. He knew. He remembered every red mark I made, every warning he ignored. And now he had to sit there while the system he killed came back to life, under my command. Revenge isn't just taking power. It's making them watch you wield it. The whispers spread fast. He's done. He's finished. By evening, even the interns avoided his office. He wandered the halls like a ghost, clutching his useless binder of buzzwords. At one point, he stumbled past my desk. Our eyes locked. His were bloodshot, desperate, begging for something, mercy, maybe, or explanation. I didn't flinch. I didn't speak. I just tapped my Sharpie once against my notepad. A reminder. A symbol. The same red ink that warned him. The same ink that had outlived him. His lips trembled, but no words came. He broke eye contact first. That was the real end. Not the board's decision. Not the lost millions. That moment, when he couldn't even hold my gaze, was the execution. The cleanup wasn't quick, but it was clean. My blueprint rebuilt what his arrogance destroyed. One patch at a time, one fix after another, we clawed the system back. Vendors returned. Orders flowed. Customers breathed again. The executives praised my quiet diligence, but I didn't care about applause. Revenge isn't about applause. It's about balance. Vincent had strutted in like a god, but in the end, he was just a man, fragile, hollow, breakable. And I didn't need to swing the hammer. I just needed to stand still and let gravity do the work. Sometimes the sweetest revenge is patience. Let them climb high, let them ignore every warning, and then let them fall. By the following Monday, his office was empty. No farewell speech, no gold watch, not even a thank you email. Just a cardboard box carried out by trembling hands. People whispered about where he went. Some said consulting, some said hiding.
Me?
I didn't care. His name was erased from the project, from the company's memory, like chalk washed away by rain.
But mine?
Mine was written in ink. Sharp, red, permanent. And every time someone glanced at the old system notes, they'd see it. The warnings, the blueprint, the signature at the bottom. My mark. The mark he mocked. The mark that outlasted him. Revenge wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was steady, silent, certain. And as I sat at my desk, system humming, company stable, I allowed myself one final thought. Sometimes, the best revenge is simply being right and making them live long enough to choke on it.